Okay, everybody, this is Chapter 2, Section 7, and we're dealing with proportions. It's a pretty important math concept that you need to have. So please make sure to take good notes. Get a hold of me if you have any questions. Make sure you go back and look at your notes to study them a little bit, not just write them down, forget about them, okay? Once again, too, I'm going to go pretty quick, so make sure that you pause it, or if you get kind of a little bit backed up on notes, just pause it, get caught up, and then hit play again, okay? If you guys could go ahead and write these two headings, and then we'll take the definitions. And once again, we've seen this a couple times already, that the definitions here are kind of meaning the same thing. So proportion and cross products kind of get mixed together. Okay, ratios or in this case, ratios are known as fractions. Okay, so you're going to have two fractions that are equal, right? So I just want to give you a heads up, though, that sometimes when we have these proportions, you're going to have a whole number that's equal to something else. Okay, you'll see that in a second. So understand that a number really is a fraction. You can turn it into that, and it just makes things a little bit easier, I think, visually to see what you're doing. Cross products here for the bottom one. Cross products is you're going to multiply diagonally between the two fractions. So you'll hopefully see that in a second. Okay. If you go ahead and write cross products property, and if you could write this little, these are two ratios. Each fraction is a ratio, and when they're equal to each other, that creates a proportion. Okay. We have to do this little disclaimer down here at the bottom that neither one of the denominators can equal 0 to make this work. And you probably hopefully learned this in math a while ago, that when you have a 0 in a denominator, that's an undefined value. So we just can't have that. We just need to disclaim that. Okay, kind of be like I'm a lawyer. And then when we're able to do our cross product, so basically you're going to go ahead and multiply. If I can get my pen to work here, multiply here, and you're going to multiply there. That's what diagonally multiplying is, or cross products is. When you do that, the fractions go away, and you end up with something like this. So with numbers, with letters, that's not really understandable, I think, in my opinion. But that's an example of how those work. The other example, if you go ahead and write this one down, okay. If I did my cross products, I'd be multiplying 3 times 12, that gets me 36. And then I multiply 4 times 9, that also gets me 36. So they have to be equal to each other. In this case, they were. But a lot of times what you're going to do is find a value that will allow them to equal each other. Okay. All right, just kind of really important down here too, matching units. If you can go ahead and write that down. And then matching units, the definition for this. Okay. With proportions, make sure the units in the numerator match and the units in the denominator match. Okay, so what happens is a lot of times we use in real life situations to be able to predict, how much I need. Let's say I'm baking something at home, I'm using different ingredients, but I want to make more than what the recipe calls for, so I can use that to kind of figure out how much more of each ingredient I might need. Okay. If you're looking at rates of speed, how fast you might be able to go, how far will I be able to go when I do that? Those are just different things we can do. But when we do these, we have to make sure that when I set up one proportion, and you can set up anyway, I could have that flipped. I could have hours over miles. And you have some control over this. But if I set it up miles over hours and I have to set up the other ratio, I need to make sure that the units match top and bottom. Okay. So I need to make sure I do that. And I don't do this. I don't flip it to the other the other ratio. Okay, so not doing that. Okay, all right. So that's just going to be important down the road when you read a word problem. You got to set it up. Just got to make sure we set it up the same way in both fractions. Okay, so if you guys can go ahead and write these two ratios down. Now you'll notice that one of the pieces is a variable. Okay, so what we're going to do is do our cross products. So we're going to diagonally multiply. I always start with the variable. Okay, and I'm going to multiply those together. So 8 times n is 8n. And then I'm going to come back around and do it here also. And it equals 84. So you'll notice that when I do this, the fractions go away after I do my cross multiplication or diagonal multiply. Okay. At this point, this is pretty easy. One more step. I'm just going to have to divide it both sides by 8. Okay. I get it down equals 10 times 5. Okay. So pretty easy math. It's 2 steps. You're done basically in most of these. So we didn't have to set it up. It was already set up for us. So I just had to do a couple math things. Okay. Here, once again, start with the diagonal that has the variable in it. So I'm going to get 3p. I'm going to go ahead and multiply the other side, and I get 20. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 3. Okay. And then we get kind of a funky answer here. Okay. This gets me 6.66, and it repeats. And typically, I like to round these to the nearest tenth. So I'll make it 6.7. Right? And that's an approximate value. It's not exact. Okay. So hopefully those are pretty straightforward. Why don't you guys go ahead and write these two down. Once you get them written down, I want you to hit pause, do your work, and then hit play, and I'll have the solutions up. Okay, so those are the solutions for those two. I think you're noticing a little bit that you're getting a lot of decimal answers on these, so that is going to happen quite a bit. You know, just really check your work, make sure you did all your multiplication and division correctly, and then if you are getting the same answer when you check it, then you're good to go. All right. Okay, so these get a little bit different because you'll notice I have 2 terms here, and I have 2 terms here, and I got it over here, and I got two terms over here. Okay. Now I'm diagonally multiplying, so I'm just going to start with this guy. Diagonally multiply. So when I do that, it looks like this. Okay. I'm doing an extra step here. Okay. And then I'm going to have to redo it over here. Okay. So what that does is gives me something that looks like this. Why is my board doing this today? Okay. So I'm diagonally multiplying. The rules didn't change because now I got a problem that's a little bit different. I'm still multiplying it. But now what I hope you understand is I'm going to have to distribute. So you might want to write that down so that you remember that I'm actually doing distribution for this one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and distribute to both terms inside. 2. And same thing here. we like to gather the variables to the left-hand side. I like to deal with them first, so I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm going to get the numbers to the other side, so I'll add 32. I'll come over here, so I get negative b is equal to 47. Okay. But that's, remember, we can't leave that variable negative, so we're going to go ahead and divide by -1. Okay, so there you go. So you have to recognize here that these problems have a little extra step that you have to do. You have to distribute. I did not have to really write this out, but I did it to show you or illustrate what's going on. I think that some of you, I'll come over to this problem really quick as an example. I think some of you know, if you understand what I just kind of explained, that I'm going to have to distribute, you might be able to just do that in your head. Okay, so I'm going to do this one in my head. I'm going to go 5 times W is 5W. I'm going to go 5 times -1 is -5. So, I didn't have to write this step out. All right, but I have to go over here. I'll do this on my head. 4 times W is 4W. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay? And if you have to write it out, you have to write it out. It's not anything I'm telling you. You have to do this in your head, or you have to write it down. You do what you think you're capable of doing. I just need you to get it right. So then we're going to go ahead and subtract 4W from both sides. Let's go away. 12. I'm going to go ahead and add 5. Get that. Okay. So really not, it's one extra step, a couple extra steps basically. But that's something that, because these are test questions, you're going to have to do pretty well on that. Okay. So once you go ahead, this next one, once you write that down, you can hit pause if you want and do the problem, then you can play and we'll have the solution up for you. Okay. So I wrote this out all the way just to show, what I had some distribution I had to do, make sure you understood that that's what I needed to do and what I should have gotten. And then just, solving an equation that you guys have been doing for a while here. So you get K equals 7. Okay. All right. So really important, probably this page, you want to start this one because these questions will be on a test. And, they're not that difficult, but sometimes if we don't really go back and revisit notes, we forget how to do stuff. Okay. All right. On this one, this is kind of really what we use proportions for, or ratios and proportions. So what I'm going to do is reading this. I got this MP3 player. It holds 2 gigabytes of storage, and that storage will hold about 500 songs. Okay, so the gigabytes and the songs are connected. That's a ratio. So what I'm going to do is just right off the bat, I'm going to use that to make a ratio. Okay, so this is pretty easy if you just understand things are connected like you use together. Now I got to remember too, I'm using gigabytes on top, I'm using songs on the bottom. And I'm going to need to, if I read the rest of the question, use a similar MP3 player holds 80 gigabytes of storage. How many songs will that hold? Okay, so I have gigabytes on top, songs on the bottom. I need to set up another fraction over here, but I need to make sure my units match. Well, they told me I have 80 gigabytes, and that's what I had on the top over here. So I need to make sure they match. I'm looking for how many songs will it hold. I have songs on the bottom over here. here, so I need to make sure I put songs on the bottom over here. This is an S, okay. All right. So now, I've now set up my proportion. So I'm going to go ahead and do my cross products. So I'll start there. I get 2G, or I'm sorry, I put the G there so I knew what I had where. So it's really 2S. Okay, we'll just kind of forget about the G. Okay, and then I'm going to go 500 times 80, which gets me 40,000. Okay, so now I can go ahead and divide by 2. And I get the number of songs is 20,000. So that other MP3 player holds many more songs. Okay, but I can use, when I started with the ratio here, it allows me then to predict how much the other MP3 player will hold. Right. Okay, so that was it for this section. Please make sure that you keep looking at your notes, go back over them. It takes you 5 minutes. If you have any issues, then go ahead and get a hold of me, and we'll get things kind of cleared up for you. Okay.